In this video, I'm going to reveal to you guys how big your marketing data set should be if you're running a land investing business. Now, it would mean the world to my mom and to myself if you could give this video a thumbs up. So before we get started, click that like button. So this question has been coming up a ton in the Leah community and within Land Insights, which is, hey, Sumner, I'm building out mailing campaigns, I'm scrubbing my data, I'm doing niche lists. I'm just curious, how big should my data sets be? Well, let's answer that. One of the things that I've learned is that typically in this business, smaller almost without fail is better. And so I see a lot of land investors that have a data set that's 50 records or 100 records, and they say, it's too small. It doesn't get me towards my marketing goal, on to the next. And I used to fall for that same trap as well. Now, small is not guaranteed to be better. They're loosely correlated, but it's not a perfect correlation. But what happens is when we're dealing with smaller data sets, we're typically dealing with smaller geographies, which means we have a higher likelihood of creating accurate offers to give to owners. And if you're following the Leah strategy, that is a big thrust of what we do. Because the average land investor is taking in a whole county, they're using averages for their pricing, they're shotgun blasting some mail, and so you've got thousands or tens of thousands of owners that are getting inaccurate offers. They're either way too low and they throw them out, or they're super duper high and they call the land investor. Land investor A either doesn't call them back, or B drops their offer by 75%. And at that point, the landowner's like, all right, screw you, I'm out of here. So in any county, there are typically thousands of people as a cohort that are getting mispriced offers. And that's why inside of Leah, our 4-part pricing strategy of how we fracture markets, zip codes, countywide acreage ranges, polygons, or subdivisions is so powerful, because we can find a hot market through Land Insights and use one of those 4 strategies, depending on what the market tells us, to fracture it down and create pinpoint accurate offers. The trouble is, after we scrub our data, we're typically left with a couple hundred records, and in some cases, less than 100 records. But I'm going to tell you 2 stories to reinforce this point. There's a Leah member, I won't name him, but there's a Leah member who recently sent out a mailing campaign. Now, he was dealing with a county in southern Colorado, and after looking at the county and using the Leah pricing matrix, he said, you know what, this county's telling me that I need to fracture it via subdivisions. So he went and did exactly that. After scrubbing his data, he was left with about 60 pieces of mail that went out. Now, those 60 pieces of mail brought in 2 signed contracts. Those 2 signed contracts will make him somewhere around $40,000 to $60,000 from about $30 to $40 in marketing spent. Pretty awesome, right? And here's the fallacy. The fallacy is that people say, well, I've got this marketing goal, and so I need to hit 10,000 records to check this off my list. So this small data set is too small. I'm not going to bother with it. What you should be doing is, A, you should get excited when you see small data sets, but B, you shouldn't necessarily be thinking about a marketing goal. You should be thinking about growing through positive performance. You see, after coaching 400 plus land investors inside of Leah, I've noticed a really interesting thing. The best land investors in Leah do not have a marketing goal. They grow their marketing based off of positive performance. So they say, hey, for the last quarter, I had a 20x ROAS. What I'm doing is working. Let me grow from there. They're not thinking, I need to hit 10,000 this month, and then 15,000 next month, and then 20,000 next month. Because what happens is you start sacrificing quality for quantity. Now, you do need some kind of bird's eye view of how much money you're allocating annually to marketing, but it does not need to be perfectly divvied up month by month where you're deploying X amount of dollars every month, especially in the beginning. You see, in the beginning, you've got no track record. So your growth should be dictated by positive cash flow or positive results through your marketing campaigns, not some binary objective where you just say, I have to hit this. And what happens is you pass on gold mines like that, or you just make a bunch of really bad decisions with your marketing because you're racing to some fictional goal that you have to hit at the end of the month. Both situations are bad. Now, going through and doing a post-mortem through our direct mail campaigns, pretty much without fail, the highest return on our ad spend came from small data sets. And that's why the strategies that we teach inside of Leah for fracturing markets are so pivotal. Because again, most people are playing the shotgun game, and we've cracked the code on how to be a sniper in this business without spending 10,000 years behind a computer screen or without spending the rest of your life behind an Excel sheet. We've created a simple 4-part framework that allows us to break down markets, to find these tightly grouped brackets of homogeneous pricing, where we know the offers that we're making to the sellers are going to be pinpoint accurate for the vast majority of our data sets. And that's why we have people within our community that are making $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 a year with like 30 grand in marketing spend, 40 grand in marketing spend. Now, of course, those results are not typical, but they're also not unheard of. But when I go and look at those people's businesses, they're doing something very different than the average land investor, which is all the stuff I've mentioned here. So for you out there, you should be looking for these tightly grouped pockets of data. You should get excited when you see them, and you should throw the notion out of this monthly arbitrary goal that you have to hit kind of out the window. Now, we still need a goal. I think about it annually for sure, but I'm not going to drive growth and try to scale unless I'm getting positive feedback from my business, which if you're in the land business is really positive feedback from your marketing. How many hot leads am I getting? How many contracts am I getting? How many signed contracts am I getting? And how much am I making for every dollar I spend on marketing? That's the catalyst to scaling. That's the catalyst to growth. Everything else is a fugazi. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.